What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven, and today we are going to be looking at the third match in my Dominion Online League, and this is going to be something a little bit different today. I recorded these games last night and wasn't really feeling the commentary for them at the time. It was just a little late, didn't feel like loading up the Twitch stream, so this one is going to be a YouTube exclusive, and I think we've got some pretty exciting games to showcase today. So these games are going to be against Master 51, and I was a little bit nervous going into these games too, because I think, if not me, Master is going to be the one that wins my division. So we're going to have to play really well against him, and we're going to have to see how the other games shake out against the other opponents in the league. But this guy is definitely our competition in the league. So like I said, all of these are pre-recorded, so I'm just going to watch through this video here and do my commentary on it. Yeah, we just had a little bit of a chat, and here is the look at the first kingdom for game one here. Is this playing? Doesn't seem like it's playing. Okay. Okay, now it's playing. So let me just give myself a second to look over these cards. We have Way of the Camel and we have Bargain. So yeah, I'm not really familiar with either Bargain or Way of the Camel. Haven't played with either of them before, but Way of the Camel lets you turn any of your actions into exiling a gold, which means that the next time you buy a gold, you shuffle an extra gold into your deck, essentially. That's what exile is. They kind of just sit on the side, and then when you get another one, you're able to put those ones in. So that's pretty cool. We will be able to stock up on a bunch of golds. Bargain is also kind of interesting, and I wind up using that a lot at the beginning of the game. I wasn't sure how good that was going to be to give your opponent a horse, but making sure you drain the Coven quickly, which Bargain allows you to buy on the cheap, I think winds up being really strong. So Coven is each other player exiles a curse, same thing. Exile means they're not quite in your deck, but they're still kind of in your deck. A curse from the supply. If they can't, which means if all of the curses are gone, then they discard or gain all of their exiled curses. So basically we're just going to be chugging through those curses in exile, and then we're going to dump a whole bunch on my opponent. So that's the plan, and I'm pretty sure for this first turn I take a look at everything, but then I just decide, you know what, I can just bargain this Coven. That seems pretty good to get the Coven going. And we are going to give my opponent a horse for this, but just grabbing a Coven on turn one. I mean, a lot of times, like, you know, if this was a witch or something, you certainly wouldn't, you know, think that was weird or anything. You would, you'd always try to just grab the witch as soon as possible, because getting those curses in your opponent's deck as soon as you can is going to mean that you're really messing with your opponent there. So my opponent goes for a Ghost Town on the first turn, and Ghost Town's interesting because it will let you loot through your deck quicker, which will help you get to your Covens quicker. However, I decided to go for Cargo Ship, thinking that will allow me to buy more Covens. So that's the route that I'm taking. My opponent with the Ghost Town is able to buy a Coven without the bargain, and then I bargain again to get another Coven. So I'm just all in on this bargain Coven strat. I'm thinking these horses aren't going to be too good, but my opponent makes a great move there, and I think I actually have done that before, which is use your horse, which returns itself after you use it, for Way of the Camel. And if you use your horse for Way of the Camel, you don't have to return your horse. So basically, you can just exile a bunch of golds. My opponent also bought an embargo on that turn while they exiled their horse, and that's going to be important. I actually missed that in the game. at first because I thought it was so cool that they were using their horses for Way of the Camel, and that even made me think twice about, do I really want to be bargaining here? Do I want to give my opponent 3 horses? They're going to be able to get so much gold through that. So I was actually really hesitant to hit this bargain, but I'm pretty sure I do hit it one more time and just get a 3rd Coven for myself. And I do think that these Covens are going to be good. You want to get as many as you can in the early game. You can't really get Coven flooded because they are basically just silvers. No, I actually decided to go ahead and get a trader there. So I think I was just scared that I was giving my opponent these horses, and now these horses were actually much better than I had initially realized because they were allowing my opponent to exile gold. So, yeah, that was a little bit scary. This turn, I have 2 options. I can cargo ship and play my coppers, and then I have 4, or I can Way of the Camel, and then I have 2. I'm pretty sure what I do here is I cargo ship and then bargain for a Coven, and thinking that basically it winds up being a lot stronger if I'm able to make this bargain play. Yes, I give my opponent a horse, but now the Coven is going to my hand because of the cargo ship, which a Coven in the hand is worth, 2 in the bush or whatever. So, yeah, I think that winds up being a pretty strong play. This turn I'm going to have the ability to 7 my opponent, or I don't know why I said 7 my opponent, to build up to 7 total resources here. So yeah, double checking my gold there, but 2 Covens plus 3 coppers, that is 7. There's not really a good 7 on the board. I could just grab a gold. I'm not even totally sure what I go with here. I'm not going to have like perfect memory or perfect thoughts on all of the game. I feel like I probably just grab either a gold or a wine merchant. Wine merchant's pretty good. It's basically like a silver, but it's also kind of better than a gold, and the double buys can be pretty cool too. So I think I do wind up going with the wine merchant. I'm certainly hovering over it a lot here. So yeah, I grab the wine merchant, but it's an interesting card. It gives you 4 for this turn, and then you just have to pay 2 of it back at some point if you want the wine merchant again. If you don't want the wine merchant again, then you just never have to pay it back. But a lot of times in the end game, you kind of have like some dud turns in there too, so it all winds up being kind of fine. So I grab the Covens, and then I go for a trader, and I almost click the gold, but then I realize my opponent just embargoed the gold on their last turn. So I did not realize that was going on at all. So I just say that to my opponent. I didn't realize that you embargoed the gold, just typing in the chat there. And I think that's going to make me make a slightly different play. Embargo lets you put an embargo token on one of the supply piles. Then if you buy something from that pile, you gain a curse. It doesn't work if you exile from that pile. So you are able to use Way of the Camel to exile, and instead I just decide to use the trader to trash one of my coppers, and then I grab a 4th Coven. I'm going to try to get rid of all of these curses. And at some point, I think it's right now, that I realize that there's only 3 curses left. And I'm probably going to be covening them pretty reliably here. I'm not sure what I go for, because I can put something on this cargo ship, so that is pretty cool too. But I think what I realized here is that once we deplete all of the curses, then I am going to, here I go for the holstery, and I put a holstery on the cargo ship, thinking that I might have some actions coming in on the next turn. And then I'm going to discard 2 coppers and grab a horse. Okay, only wound up having 1 wine merchant here, or we'll see what I draw off the holstery. But yeah, once we get rid of those curses, which now there's only 1 curse left, that embargo that my opponent put on the golds is going to be totally negligible here. So first we will draw a card off the holstery. Just got another copper. So nothing huge there, and I will probably just Wine Merchant, and then I'll probably just buy a 5 at that point, because that will allow me to pay off the Wine Merchant. I mess up here a little bit how you're supposed to use Wine Merchant. You do have to play your 2 coppers, which luckily I had those 2 buys there. So I undo that. I replay my coppers, and then I buy the Harvest, which allows me to shuffle the Wine Merchant back into my deck at the end of the turn. So no harm, no foul there. And it looks like I'm going to be giving my opponent the last Coven Curse, which is pretty sweet. So I can Coven Curse them, and then I can even cargo ship the gold, because that was the last curse. So I can just play these coppers and grab a gold here. I might grab another Wine Merchant, but yeah, I just go ahead and grab a gold and put that on the cargo ship, thinking I'm going to have some actions next turn, and I do indeed. So now we actually are going to have a pretty big turn. My opponent gets a decently big turn as well. They buy a gold and exile 2 golds, or discard 2 golds from exile, rather. But I am looking at if I can just hit 1 copper off this horse, which I hit a Coven, so that is that's also totally respectable. Oh yeah, that's right here. Actually, don't go for the Pravi. I go for a double exile. I camel both of these actions here, I believe. I'm pretty sure I camel both of these actions, because otherwise I would have had a decent amount of leftover gold. So I just camel both of those and then buy a gold. So I have the same good turn as my opponent there, except I also made them discard 7 curses. So they have 7 curses to my 3. So I'm feeling pretty good about this game. If we just play it pretty straightforward from here on out, you'll see that they are currently beating me because they have 1 province in their deck, but I'm not super worried about that. I think we are going to be able to do some good stuff and figure that out. You do potentially want to consider trading your Coven at this point. I'm actually getting ahead of myself a little bit because I don't come up with that play. My opponent actually comes up with that play. And do I grab a gold? I thought I grabbed a Wine Merchant here. Looks like I'm thinking about the gold, though. Definitely don't want to use Trader to grab another gold. Okay, so I just go for a Wine Merchant, or I just go for a gold, rather. That's fine. Gold is good, too. Though this board isn't like super heavy with draw, which is why you might consider gold over Wine Merchant, because Wine Merchant's like pretty freaking good. So we'll see what I go with here. I mean, I can get a province and exile a gold, so I feel like I'm going to do that. Just camel this Wine Merchant and then just straight up buy a Pravi. Yeah, I really don't see a problem with that. And Wine Merchant won't put itself on the tavern mat. Oh no, I do go for a Wine Merchant. Interesting. So what am I grabbing in addition to that? Am I just grabbing a raise just to try to trash some? Maybe I did go for, maybe that was my thought. I wanted to pick up a raise. There are 3 curses in my deck, as well as 2 estates and still some coppers. So wouldn't mind raising a little bit here. Do I go for a whole straight? No, I have to go for a raise because that puts the Wine Merchant back into the deck. Yeah, lets me shuffle the Wine Merchant back in. So that seems fine. And here we have those curses that I would love to be able to trash. Though this hand isn't that terrible because of all of the golds in this kingdom. There, my opponent uses Trader to trash a Coven and put 5 silvers in their deck. I'm not actually sure if that's a great play because Coven is a silver. It's just +1 action, +2 coin. So that's always going to be fine. Like I said, I think I grab a Wine Merchant here. But putting 5 silvers in your deck in the late game is kind of actually diluting your deck. And when you have really powerful cards like Wine Merchant in the deck, you want to draw them as much as you can. So I even consider the duchy there for a second before clicking on the wine merchant. We're beating our opponent right now. If we can trade provinces with my opponent, basically just buy a province whenever they do, we will be winning this game. Not sure what I'm going to go with here because I can very easily grab a province and exile a gold this turn. So I just go for that. Now we're ahead on my opponent, so now my opponent has got to do some work, and I think my deck is like pretty consistently better than my opponent's, for the fact that, I mean, look at that. That was a ghost town turn, and all they had was a wine merchant and another ghost town, but a wine merchant and a copper. And oh no, they bought that ghost town on that turn with their 3 so that they could return that wine merchant. So they had absolutely nothing in their hand because they have so many curses. So that is definitely working out well for us. This turn we do have to make kind of an interesting decision. That's what I was talking about. We might want to be trashing these estates soon up. So we shall see how that goes. Not really sure what the right call is with this hand. Obviously, we have too many actions, so you could certainly consider just buying a holstery for the village aspect. Looks like I'm thinking about exiling a gold. Oh, no. Okay, yeah, I want to trash one of these estates. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. With a hand that's this kind of dense, let's just give ourselves the opportunity for better hands in the future. This hand, if I just go holstery, wine merchant, gold, I can buy a province and get my wine merchant back. And that's the other thing, like, I'm having these turns that are, like, so over the top. I'm even going to be able to trash a curse on this turn. So that's just absolutely fantastic. But yeah, then I just wine merchant and double gold. I don't know why I'm taking a look there exactly. Oh, I'm considering if I want to potentially... I could camel the wine merchant and then buy a gold, and that would put 3 more golds into my deck. But I think I'm just fine grabbing this province and moving on. It's going to be really, really tough for my opponent to get back into the game after a play like that. If they buy the last 3 provinces, they'll have me, but all I need is like 1 duchy even to disrupt that. And I'm not sure if you can bargain for a duchy. Can't really take a look at it now, but I can't remember if bargain is actions only. But either way, I'm feeling pretty good about this game, considering my opponent also has so many curses in their deck. They go ahead and buy a duchy here. Oh, do I go for an undo? Do I exile a gold? No, I just go for a ghost town. I'm saying, okay, I'll have a good turn next turn, and I don't even need the ghost town. I definitely have a good turn this turn, just with wine merchant and the enough to buy a Pravi here before the turn even starts. So not sure what I'm going to do with this wine merchant. Maybe this one will become a camel. But my opponent is going to be able to get a province here, but if they do so, they don't get their wine merchant back. So yeah, that's pretty awkward. I've been able to get my wine merchant back every time I've used it, which really means I'm only using it as a silver, but it's a silver with like pretty high upside in the late game, because if you're buying the last province of the game, then you just say, sure, you can stay there, wine merchant. So yeah, now I'm doing pretty good. I'm going to Coven and Harvest. If I'm able to buy the province, I will. If I'm not, I'll definitely be able to buy a gold, and that'll shuffle, I believe, 3 golds into my deck. And I'm beating my opponent. Oh, well, now my opponent is actually in a good spot. I think I might actually have to grab a duchy here. If I fizzle. Let's see. So I'm at 7. Yeah, I think I go for the duchy. I'm playing it safe. I am paying attention. Looks like I was paying attention more in the game almost than in my coverage. My opponent grabs a duchy again, but this hand I've got more than enough, and I'm able to grab the last province and win the game. So here is the end screen here. We can see that I had 2 curses to my opponent's 7. I also had 7 golds to my opponent's 3. So we were definitely killing my opponent on a lot of aspects there. Yeah, my opponent really didn't have too much going on for themselves that game. They really just had a bunch of curses and no way out. So for this next game, I am going to be on the draw, and this is a double landmark kingdom, which can be super complicated. The first landmark is Obelisk, which means that all storytellers are worth 2 victory points. The next landmark is Palace, which gives you 3 victory points for every bundle of copper, silver, gold that you have. So, am I still here? Okay, great. I thought I turned that off. I thought I turned... Oh, weird. It re-clicked itself. Okay. Weird. Okay, well that probably shouldn't happen again. But yeah, I'm just kind of reading over all of these cards here. Flag Bearer is... Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but no 3 costs in this kingdom, which is pretty interesting. And we do have a 2 cost, though, which is a Lackeys. And Lackeys is a pretty good card. And then a ton of 4s and 5s. So a pretty expensive kingdom all around, and a lot of stuff going on. Royal Carriage is like a throne room of sorts, and Obelisk and Palace definitely complicating the game. One thing that isn't complicated, if you have 3 coin, you're definitely grabbing a silver in this kingdom, because there's nothing else to grab, but also because it contributes to the Palace win condition. So I'm going to grab a silver. I might even jump through this game a little bit. Okay, looks like I'm back. But Tournament is a crazy card. It's very powerful, and we're definitely going to want to pick one up. But I also want Flag Bearer, because basically then it will mean my opponent has to get a Flag Bearer, or all of my turns are just going to be so much better than theirs. I'm thinking on the, just looking at this kingdom, that I want to buy all of the Storytellers that I can. They are basically like, oh, now I'm forgetting the name of it, but there's a card that is, it's draw 2... Then you can discard 2 for 2 coins, maybe, something like that. Draw 2, plus 2 cards, plus 1 action. You can discard 2 cards for 2 coins, but it's worth 2 victory points. That's the important part. And Storyteller is basically like that, and I think that card is generally pretty good. The trap with that card and the trap with Storyteller is they don't actually really advance you into the game. Storyteller is just a cycle. It doesn't actually help you generate anything, because it's a pretty weird card. I don't know if I've moused over it or when I will mouse over it again. I think I moused over it a few seconds ago, but it's a really interesting card. It gives you a goal, or it gives you a coin, and then you can play you can play up to 3 coins from your hand, and then you turn all of your current money into card draw. So it doesn't really generate money. It just kind of turns your money into cards, which isn't necessarily good or bad, but it's interesting. Here with 7, I think I do pick up a Storyteller. Yeah, so there it is on the screen for a second. You can pause it if you want to read it. But yeah, I go ahead and grab the Storyteller. I got the Flag Bearer, so I'm doing cool stuff, but I kind of just get a little bit trapped here. My opponent goes for a Charm, and I'm not sure that I go for a Charm. I think I might go for another Storyteller. I am going to read Charm now that my opponent picked one up. The thing is, there's so many cool cards on this board, and Charm does help you grab a bunch of them. I want a Charm, I want an Inventor, I want a Province potentially because I have the Tournament, but I think I just get bogged down. There's just so much going on in this kingdom, and I'm just not sure which way I want to go with these things. So let's see. I think I buy another Storyteller though here, and I think that is Definitely to my detriment. No, maybe I do grab the charm. Do I grab a gold? Oh, that seems kind of crazy. Oh, that's right. But the palace is one of the cards. Looks like I do grab a charm here. And I do think charm is going to be good on this board. Then my opponent grabs an inventor, and that winds up being a key play of the game for sure. So I go for tournament, and then I go for storyteller. And again, storyteller is just really a cycler. It doesn't really do anything. But I decide to play all my treasures, I believe, because I do have silvers. The fear with this is that I could draw a bunch of flag bearers, but I only have one flag bearer yet. That's right. This game winds up going for a long time more. So with 7 here, I'm pretty sure I grab a gold. No, I grab a storyteller here. Okay, I do grab a gold. I must. Because I know that I was really concerned with the palace win condition early. That just gave me 3 victory points because as you can see in this hand, I've got a copper, a silver, and a gold. So with every combination, one of each of those cards, you grab 3 victory points. But that was why Inventor was the key play of the game. My opponent inventors for the flag bearer and then charms and is able to buy an old witch and a royal carriage on the same turn. So in one turn, they got 3 buys out of this kingdom, which is just absolutely fantastic here. So here, I think I have to charm for the buys, and then I potentially get like charm and storyteller, which just isn't really moving me forward. Oh, maybe I grab flag bearer, storyteller. Yeah, I know that I really prioritize the flag bearer. I potentially should have even gone like flag bearer inventor if the flag bearer meant this much to me, but I do keep going for the flag bearer because it takes it away from my opponent. But I am curious about this game. I think I'm the most curious about how I played it. There were a few specific turns, and one thing I've seen a little bit of in the comments is like, people suggesting routes and different things like that to me. One thing that could also be helpful is you have the turns in the log right there. Let me know like which turn specifically you would have done something different on. For a lot of them, it's like, okay, well, turn 1, I would have done something differently. And, for that aspect, I get it. So my opponent buys a flag bearer, takes the flag, and I'm like, all right, well, I got to do the same thing. I got to buy the flag bearer and take the flag myself. And I feel like now I'm just like significantly behind my opponent. They grab the flag bearer and they grab a herald. I don't even know what herald does. I think I mouse over it here. Yeah, so they charm to grab an additional card. Oh no, I don't mouse over it. So here I think I make a pretty awkward turn because I discard 3 treasures. Oh no, okay. This turn winds up being fine. But I think at some point, maybe this does happen here, that I storyteller into 3 flag bearers. Yeah, so that was a little bit awkward. But I think I can still make a pretty good turn out of this. Now I can charm and I can just say +2 again because I know I want the flag bearer. But, and that's right, I wanted a tournament as well. I want to try to get these tournaments so that way I can get to like some bigger turns. I don't know. I think my opponent is actually working towards something here. I don't really have a game plan, and now my opponent buys a province, and then they proceed to get pretty lucky, but we also don't really make the best plays here. So we already have the flag, and then I grab another storyteller, and I think that these just aren't great. They're not advancing me any. I definitely, like, they're not bad. They're not gunking up my deck or anything like that, really, yet. But they're also not moving my deck forward. My opponent's just having much better turns than I am, where they're grabbing, okay, they grabbed a flag bearer, a lackeys, and yeah, it's just awkward. I was thinking, though, the whole game that maybe I could get in a spot where I get the last 2 flag bearers in the same turn. And if I could have done that, like, right now, that might have been okay. But I'm not able to do that right now, so I grab another silver, I believe. Oh, no, do I go for the lackeys here? I think I do wind up... Okay, yeah, I go for the lackeys because I just have all these turns where I have too many flag bearers. So... yeah, now I'm looking for a turn. Like, this turn really isn't that great. And I can't buy the penultimate flag bearer because then my opponent buys the last one and they have it for the whole game. So because of that, my opponent gets all of these turns with the flag bearer here, and they also keep getting very lucky with tournament. They only have the 1 tournament and 1 province, but they're drawing them together, and it's a little bit lucky. It's also a little bit to do with Herald, and it's a little bit to do with having the flag. So they're just drawing more cards than us. So yeah, not looking super great here. Like I said, I can't take the flag because if I take the flag, they'll take it back and then they'll have it forever. There is no way to trash flag bearer in this kingdom. So I just go for Tournament Inventor on turn 12, which is just way too late for an Inventor. And I basically need to draw the Charm or the Inventor to have any chance of taking these last 2 flag bearers. Meanwhile, my opponent is cursing me. I now have 3 curses in my deck, and my opponent is also just doing so much more than us. That's also a really good play with Inventor. You grab a lackeys, and then you're able to use those villagers to play the additional actions that are in your hand. My opponent has another tournament, and this time they grab the princess, which gives them an additional buy and makes everything cost 2 less. So now the provinces only cost 5. So that's pretty good for them. They could grab like a province and a gold. Looks like they're going to grab, okay, a Storyteller and a Charm and a gold. So that's a pretty good play too. We're going for tournament into lackeys, and then I can have 6. So, like, yeah, I don't really even know what I'm doing. I can flag bear up to 8, and then I can buy a province, and then maybe I can win a tournament or block a tournament. But at this point in the game, I just feel like super far behind, and I'm trying to think of what ways I can do to win. I also have to try to get the flag from my opponent, or they're just going to drown me in even more of an advantage with that. So yeah, really not feeling that great about this one, and I'll just spoil it now. They're gonna win this game, as they curse me yet again, as if that was any concern. And yeah, that's not great. And then I think I even wind up, well, I won't get too ahead of myself here, but yeah, this is not great. I tournament into Storyteller. I'm never sure what the right order for those things is. Storyteller is just a cycle. Yeah, I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm like trying to find golds. I'm thinking this is good because I can Inventor this turn, and the Inventor will make flag bearer cost 3. So that will let me grab the flag bearer without using any of my villagers. So now I have the flag, so that's good. And I'm drawing 6 cards a turn. But actually, it might not come up this turn here yet. Yeah, I'm gonna get 1 full turn. But look at that. I mean, my opponent is just already so far away ahead of us. They're only 2 provinces up, really. But their deck is just so much more powerful than ours. I'm just storytelling and looting and really doing nothing here. So yeah, now I get like flag bearer, charm, and I can use a villager to like somewhat salvage this hand. I think I don't. I think I just play the charm and get a tournament. That's what I would have to imagine. Or maybe I play the charm and grab 2 lackeys. Yeah, that's what I do. I grab 2 lackeys, make use of those buys. So now I've got a bunch of villagers. So I do have some outs here. I have some options. But things really aren't looking great. My opponent has the royal carriage. They're making use of that again here, and now they're using the old witch, which does allow me to trash the curse I have in my hand. So I appreciate that, but my opponent wins another tournament and gets another prize card. So they put Trusty Steed in their hand and are just able to keep going off in their deck. So they did a lot. They give me another curse. They wind up not actually, I think, doing that much this turn because they mostly just cycle through with Storytellers and Heralds and things, but at the same time, they actually did do a lot here. And yeah, then they end it with, oh, they're drawing 4. They're using their gold as draw. Then they're going for Princess, making everything cheaper. Inventor can now grab a gold and then make everything cheaper. So even though they don't have that much, they can now charm and just like, oh, they just go straight for the duchies. Well, I wonder if that was better for them than just grabbing Storytellers there. I think Storytellers are probably better than duchies, but the fact that they grabbed the duchies, I mean, look, now they're beating me by 27 points. There's really no hope for me, and I definitely thought about just hitting the concede button this game, but the game's over. So I'm gonna start jumping ahead a little bit in the VOD here, just to slowly get it. Yeah, I'm still at 9. They're at 42 now after they grab another province on their turn. Just a very straightforward turn. They go for a province. On my turn, I charm and I gain an old witch and a charm. I think I gotta grab some old witches and some carriages to try to get back into the game. But I'm not really even sure if that's right. I do an interesting play there. I flag bear and then I storyteller, thinking that that will draw me even more cards. And this does allow me to draw into my old witch, which I did want to get sooner rather than later. And I'm just discarding all of this stuff. I'm not even really sure what I'm going for here. I think I'm just looking for my gold at this point. So yeah, not even super sure what I'm going to use these villagers on. This is kind of an interesting turn though, and yeah, I'm not sure what we do. I don't even have a province yet, so I'm like pretty significantly behind my opponent. I can use all of my villages and all of these flag bearers, but it looks like I stop there. And then I go for the gain card route, and I grab another charm and a royal carriage. I finally grab a... Oh, no, I go for an old witch. Okay, I want to try to curse my opponent. I'm thinking that's the only chance that I have here. My opponent's going to be exiling my curses if they play any old witches. And as soon as I kind of make that observation, my opponent basically stops playing old witches. So I don't... Oh, I forgot about that. With tournament, you can gain one of the prize cards or you can just gain a duchy. So my opponent grabs a duchy on that one and then buys a silver for even more victory points on that turn. The reason that I didn't want to give up this game was because there are so many ways to earn victory points. Storyteller's victory points, Palace is 3 victory points. So there are a lot of ways to earn victory points on the board. And I'm thinking if I can chain together something really cool, there's potentially a chance for me. But then I'm just like buying gold and I'm not even getting victory points off of that because my notes were wrong. So I am able to trash a curse here, but I gained a curse. And then I'm able to trash another curse here. But all that's really doing is depleting the curse piles. And my opponent can probably end the game anytime. All they have to do is get 3 buys. If you have 3 buys or something similar to that, and now the charm is, or now the curses are gone too. All my opponent has to do is buy these 2 lackeys, and I think we are going to see the end of the game on this turn here. Yeah, with charm, you grab 2 buys, you grab 2 lackeys, and the game is over. So that was quite the game from my opponent. If we take a look, I've got 6 curses to their 1, so basically the opposite of the last game. But you can just see, I mean, even if you don't even read the cards, you can just look at that text and see my opponent has so much more stuff going on than I do. My opponent actually, like, it doesn't look that bad for them. Or it doesn't look that bad for me, rather. But yeah, I thought I had 2 silvers. And I wrote down that I had 2 silvers, which, I mean, hey, if I had 11 victory points as opposed to 8 victory points, I don't think that that is winning the game for me. But that is why I bought that gold there. Yeah, my opponent just really in a dominating position as far as victory points is concerned, with all of those provinces and duchies and even a bunch of estates too. So my opponent definitely killing it on that game. For this next game, we will get to be on the play, so I am liking that. And Way of the Goat is pretty interesting. You can just use any action to trash a card from your hand, so that would include something like Distant Lands. You could use it to trash cards in the early game, and then when you are done trashing cards, just throw it onto your tavern mat. Distant Lands is a really cool card, I think, and I've played with all of these cards before here, except I think Hoard. Maybe Hoard has been in my games, but it hasn't really been something that I've super considered, because Hoard without these other victory points is kind of an awkward card. I mean, you can use Hoard to buy Estate, and then you get a free gold. But that's not really great, because then you're putting an estate into your deck. So unless you also have a way to trash the estates, winds up being a little bit awkward. So I have 4 on my opener, and you could grab the ports here, and I don't think that would be horrible, and my opponent actually makes pretty good use of that. But there's also Feodum, which rewards you for getting a bunch of silvers. I'm just taking a look at the Necromancer here. But Feodum says for every 3 silvers you have, you gain a victory point. And I really see the way to winning this game. First off, you can mine into Hoard. That seems really cool. And because there's so many good victory point cards, I think I just want to be hoarding Distant Lands and hoarding Feodum and hoarding duchies too, basically whenever I can. So I go ahead and grab a silver on the first 2 turns, which is potentially a victory point later in the game as we build up the silvers and grab the Feodums. And I get very lucky here. I draw both of my silvers and I grab a Hoard on turn 3. And my opponent has a mine. That's pretty good for them. They also have a lighthouse because they had a 5-2 split, but I am liking my chances here. So they go ahead and go for a mine, and they trash a copper and grab a silver. Mine is always really strong, and I always forget how strong it is because it adds the trashed card to your hand. So that winds up being pretty powerful. And then my opponent grabs 2 ports. I initially thought port wasn't really that great on this board, and I'm like considering, okay, I know my opponent's very good. They grabbed some ports. Do I just want to grab some ports? I don't think so. I kind of just feel like I want to draw my Hoard as much as I possibly can. So I grab a dungeon. Dungeon is draw 2, discard 2, and then you can do it again on your next turn. So I'm just thinking, okay, that seems good. I want to get that into my deck right before I shuffle my deck. And this turn I think I grab a silver, which is now my 3rd silver, but I put the dungeon into my deck there. So that way I can draw into my Hoards faster, and here's my Hoard. So dungeon didn't really help me draw it in this case, but we are going to be able to discard some cards, and we should be able to hoard a Distant Lands. And basically anytime I have Hoard, I am buying Distant Lands because you get a free gold, and you get to exile or put on your tavern mat these Distant Lands, so they don't really clog up your deck at all either. So yeah, just whenever I have 5 and have a Hoard, I'm definitely snapping that one off. That one seems super cool. My opponent trashes another copper and grabs another silver. They also use their lighthouse with Way of the Goat to snag an estate. And I just grab another Hoard. I think that Hoard is really strong in this kingdom, so I was just going for an aggressive strategy with Hoard here. We'll have a bunch of golds. We'll get these distant lands out. Like I said here, there's actually two really interesting turns you can take with this current hand. My opponent now grabbing their first Hoard. You can either just exile the distant lands or put on your tavern mat and then grab a Hoard, or you could Way of the Goat your distant lands and then buy a mine or something. So that was definitely something that I considered with that hand, but these Hoards just seem so good that I just wanted to go for that. And again, if you have Hoard and distant lands, then you definitely go for the victory point. And this turn, I have double Hoard, which I wasn't super sure, but I was like, wait, I think I'm going to grab 2 golds with this hand. So that was definitely sweet. My opponent going for a Necromancer here. Just, I don't think Necromancer's like super exciting on this board. And then they put that on their tavern mat. But one thing that is exciting, and I think I saw this in the game, but I just missed it while I was doing commentary here. My opponent at one point in this game, yeah, there we go. I grabbed 2 golds. That seems insane. 2 golds plus 4 victory points. I mean, that's just an incredible turn. So I think I saw this in the game, but I missed this in my commentary is what I was saying. And I think I grab a mine here on turn 11. But that's fine. So 2 things. Port gives you 2 cards that you can use with Way of the Goat, which I think is actually really strong, and I didn't consider initially when considering Port. I have to undo that, yeah, because I did not realize what I was doing at first there. So mine is interesting, and what I realized my opponent was doing initially, my thought with this kingdom was just trash it, turn the silvers into Hoards and then buy a distant land. I might even back it up and do that, because that seems like that would have been a better play here. Turn the silver into a distant lands and then or turn the silver into a Hoard and then buy a distant lands, grabbing a gold. I think that would have been a better play for this turn. I don't think I use an undo here, but it's definitely possible. But what I realized my opponent was doing that started to get me a little bit scared is they had bought 2 mines and they were using ports with the mines, and they just wanted to make their entire deck silver because of Feodum. So once I realized that, I was like, oh, well, maybe I don't want to trash my silvers either. And I think I even buy another mine here, which doesn't really, or maybe I even buy a port. Like, I started letting my opponent get into my head a little bit. And yeah, I do grab a mine and I'm thinking, oh, is their strategy better than mine? That's a little bit scary. So I do wind up getting a little bit scared by that. But the thing that we do have going for us is I have so much gold in my deck from Hoard that we're just drawing these like insane hands here. So I grab a province and a gold that turn, and then this turn is going to be absolutely insane. 10 victory points. I put distant lands on my tavern mat and then buy another province, so 4 + 6, and that's just wonderful. My opponent can grab another distant lands here, but they might not even be able to play it. I'll have to check that at the end of the game if my opponent had extra distant lands that they were unable to play. And I do think that that's the case. This turn, I'm going to be able to distant lands, buy a distant lands, and grab 2 golds. So again, that is a pretty fantastic turn. Definitely cannot be too upset with that. My opponent is gaining on us now. They've got 21 to my 27, but I still have a pretty healthy lead there as they buy the last distant lands. Now we're just going to be buying provinces. We're getting gold from buying provinces, and now I'm up 8 on my opponent. But I got to be feeling pretty good with this game. Dungeon is going to let us loot through all of these victory points, find potentially, yeah, just getting rid of these provinces. Now we grab the penultimate province, and we're beating my opponent by 10, so they could tie it here. If they play a distant lands and gain a province, I mean, that's a huge turn, but it is possible they're not able to do so, so they grab a duchy. And I'm about to play the mine, and then I draw the distant lands, and I realize I just got a discard. We play the distant lands, we play all this other stuff, and then we buy the last province, and we beat my opponent by 17 in the end game. So we'll take a look here as I pause it. So my opponent had 4. Okay, so we both had 4 distant lands, but my opponent had... Oh, there's only 8 distant lands. That's why. Okay, so yeah, both of us had the same number of distant lands. My opponent was actually at 6 silvers, so that was good for them. They were grabbing 2 points off the Feodoms. You can see I didn't even buy a Feodom, so I definitely should have done that play that I was talking about where I got rid of that 4th silver and turned it into a Hoard and then just bought another distant lands. But we were both able to play all of our distant lands. I just also grabbed all of the provinces because I had so many gold from my hoarding escapades there. So that was a really, really fast game. And one thing that I was noticing here is that whoever was on the play was winning these games so far. So that was that was a super fast game. I'm going to back it up here a little bit. So this game we have Young Witch, which means we have 11 cards in the kingdom, and also you get 2 victory points for each unique card that you grab. So you're probably going to want like at least one of everything other than a curse, but you'd even want 1 estate. And then you have Way of the Sheep, which means if you wind up with too many extra weird actions, then you can just turn them into silvers, basically. You can turn them into flag bearers and just use an action and into 2 gold. One thing about this kingdom is there isn't really ways to generate extra actions other than Lost City, which I should have gained much earlier. I just didn't realize that that's what Lost City did. If I had realized Lost City was the only way to generate extra actions on this board and that it's also like a pretty good card, I would have gone for it. But it's 2 cards, 2 actions, and when you gain it, your opponent draws a card. I'm not sure what I thought it did. I just didn't read it carefully enough. And yeah, it turns out it's pretty good. But this is a hard kingdom. I start trying to think of what I want to do if I get a 5-2 split, because with a 3-4 split, I think it's pretty clearly just Gear and Young Witch. But I'm thinking, okay, with a 5-2 split, I guess I'll go like Herbalist and probably Treasury. In hindsight, maybe I wanted to grab the Lost City. So we'll see how this one plays out. I believe this game winds up going pretty long here with all of the curses and with everybody wanting to pick up 1 of each card, but I do get the 5-2 split, so I go for Herbalist, and I'm hovering my mouse there to indicate that I'm pretty heavily leaning towards Treasury. My opponent grabs a Young Witch, which is definitely going to be scary a little bit. I'd love to grab Grave Robber. I think that's going to be really good this game because of all of the 5s. But and then you can Grave Robber and you can turn those 5s into provinces. So that winds up being a pretty cool strategy in the late game. But you can't grab Grave Robber early. You just won't have the actions to trash. So that doesn't do anything for you. And I think Treasury, once you draw it, you just have an extra coin for the rest of the game. It's almost like buying a project in that way. So Treasury is pretty cool. My opponent now grabbing 6, and they go for a gold. And you do want 1 gold, but I don't think you want it that early in this kingdom. The one reason I guess they do go for a gold, and actually it does make some sense, is because they have Young Witch, and with Young Witch you won't be floating actions after you're done with it, so it makes some sense to draw into gold. That's one of the best things that you can draw afterwards. So I think I do grab a Gear here. No, I must grab a Gear to stop the Young Witch. No, okay, I just grab a silver. I want to try to get ahead on the board a little bit, and we are going for Treasury. And one thing that I check out is Treasury will put itself back on top if you Way of the Sheep it. So that's pretty cool. I can just Way of the Sheep this Treasury, and then I can buy another 5-cost card. I should be buying Lost City. I should be buying Lost City yesterday. I should be buying it as soon as possible, but instead I grab another Treasury, and another Treasury isn't bad, but Lost City is really good, and that was definitely my regret this game. But we grab a Curse from the Young Witch, and then we have a Herbalist here. And this Herbalist is going to be fine. It's going to let us put the silver back on top. So next turn we're going to have access to the silver again, and we're going to have access to the Treasury again. And, okay, here I go for a Young Witch and a silver? Okay, I go for a Young Witch and a silver because Treasure is good with Young Witch, like I brought up previously. So, excuse me, we're going to put that silver back on top, and we're almost guaranteed to still have a good turn this turn. That is why I bought the silver before I bought the gear as well, because I have Herbalist. So I wanted to make use of Herbalist's cleanup ability with that there. We actually get 6 now, so maybe I diverge. Oh, I start getting the salvager online. Yeah, that's definitely going to be good. One of the interesting things with this kingdom, really, sorry, let me move this off the screen. One of the interesting things with this kingdom is, honestly, all of these cards are good. We drew the salvager immediately, and I think we're actually going to get to make good use of it here as we go treasury, and then salvage our estate. But yeah, all of these cards are good, and we'll want to buy like one of each of them eventually here. I thought that's what happened, that I drew an extra action on this turn. So here I can salvage either the estate or the Herbalist. Definitely going to salvage the estate here, and that will give us 2 more coins, and then we'll have a total of 6 with 2 buys. And I think I start diversifying here and grabbing like a ghost ship or a grave robber or a groundskeeper or something. Do I go for the double gear? No way. Oh, I go for the gold? Okay. Yeah, I don't really remember what all of my plays are. And I'm a little lost in this game. I don't really have a concise line. I think I want a grave robber stuff. But really, like I said, to do everything that I actually want to do, I should have been buying Lost Cities much earlier. You give your opponent 1 card when you buy it, but you much more than make up for that basically just by playing it once, I think. And by the time you've played it twice, which means the earlier in the game you play it, the more likely it will benefit you. I mean, me and my opponent are close here. It's 21-18. And if I buy a new card here, okay, there's a curse for them. A curse actually gives them a victory point because it's their first curse, but you still want to get rid of it. I mean, it's like an estate or something at this point in the game. And then I go for a gold. So we're right behind my opponent. That was my first gold here. And we're definitely going to be able to buy something big this turn, which is why I want the extra buys. Herbalist and Salvager are actually really good in this kingdom, because if you're doing all this stuff with Treasurer, you wind up with a whole bunch more stuff. I decided to grab a province there with Way of the Sheep, just to kind of keep even here with my opponent, who is doing similar stuff. This turn, I'm not really going to have a good turn. I can either grab a duplicate, but because there's so many curses now, and I do want those extra buys, I do go for the Salvager here. The duplicate would have also been good, I think. So I definitely could have considered getting the duplicate instead. This is just going to be a little bit of a treasury action. And basically, I like to hang on to my treasuries until I'm about to reshuffle my deck. So I am definitely going to not buy a victory point this turn and then consider buying a victory point next turn. So here we're just going to go Herbalist, and then I can buy a 5. So I think here I buy, either Ghost Ship, Grave Robber, or Groundskeeper. But yeah, totally should have bought the Lost City. That would have been really good here. Oh, that's right. I was debating if I wanted to Way of the Sheep that Herbalist and like get a gold or something, but I'm gonna get a Ghost Ship action going on here. I think Ghost Ship is pretty good, but again, Ghost Ship gets even better if you have Lost City, because then you can float some actions, play Ghost Ship, and then continue to play more actions. Whereas right now, if you play Ghost Ship, well, then you're all done. So I do have a gear here for my opponent's Young Witch, so that's pretty sweet, but they buy a province, which is not so sweet. So now they're beating me by about 10 points, just because they've got a more diversified kingdom than I do already, and because I've bought 2 treasuries and 2 herbalists, where they have been a lot more willing to diversify. So yeah, they're beating us. They're ahead by like a province, but we should be okay here. We're gonna hold the Salvager and set it aside, because the rest of our hand is already pretty good, and we can buy a province with the rest of it. Now, looking back, I think that this was probably wrong. I think that I probably should have just used the Salvager potentially even on nothing, but maybe the silver, and then like bought 2 Lost Cities or something like that. But instead I just used like 9 gold and buy a Groundskeeper, which definitely means I should have geared differently as well. I should have geared and saved that gold. I think I'm just feeling like I'm behind here, and I'm kind of lost in these kingdoms where everything is good. I think this game was a little bit overwhelming for me, to be honest, and I just really wasn't sure what to do at any point. That was also the end of the deck, so I definitely should have played my treasuries and just like bought a province there if that was the play I was going to go for. But like I said, I think the better play there was to salvage and do something a little bit different. Now I'm grabbing a Grave Robber, and we're going to be able to do a little bit of catch up here, because Grave Robber, Lost City, Vault, well, we don't have a Vault yet, but Duplicate, like we can just buy these things and be doing pretty all right. But we can't float actions into this Ghost Ship, so that's definitely not looking super good for us here. Opponent trashes the uses Grave Robber to trash a Herbalist, so they get their hands on a Ghost Ship. Yeah, that's gonna be pretty strong too. We are gonna be able to Groundskeeper here, which is cool. And if we hit well off this Ghost Ship, which we do, now we can buy a province and make good use of this Ghost Ship turn. So that was a pretty good turn for us, I do have to say. On this turn, I feel like I will buy a Duplicate, though it's always like with this hand where there's like 2 things I want to trash. Maybe I do want another Salvager, but I think the Duplicate is going to be good. Unfortunately, we're definitely going to play Ghost Ship here, and the Duplicate is not going to be super good for us. So we're going to Ghost Ship into Young Witch, which is super annoying. And then we play the Coppers, and I guess I just buy a Herbalist here. We're only down by 6 at this point, and this game is definitely winnable. Though every time my opponent plays that Lost City, now I finally read Lost City and say, wait a minute, that card's really good. So now, yeah, I finally read the Lost City, and I think I'm going to wind up buying one pretty soon here, so I can Salvager, and I will have 7 gold this turn. So I think I do wind up buying a Lost City on this turn here, and I guess I'm not going to use that extra copper that I have. Let's just buy a Lost City. This might be the turn where I make kind of an interesting play. Oh, do I go for Young Witch Gear? There's only 3 curses left in the deck. Yeah, my read of like where we're at in the game, I think, is definitely in question on this board here. Not going to have a great turn this turn, though I could sheep the groundskeeper. Oh, I've got to put cards on top. Oh, so that's right. This is what I do this turn. And I do wind up requesting an undo here because I ordered those cards wrong. But after thinking for it a little bit, I groundskeeper into the silver and then buy an estate. So let me jump ahead here. We're going to go back and put these 2 cards back in a different order, which my opponent is gracious to allow us to undo here. I wasn't really even sure how this worked either, but then I just wind up buying an estate on my turn, and I'll be honest, I don't really think this was a great play either, but it is worth 2 victory points, so it's like almost a duchy, which is like a pretty good way to get out of a otherwise terrible turn. But what I was thinking is, for some reason, I thought this was my last estate, or I thought I didn't have any estates. Here I have a pretty terrible hand, so I sheep my, salvager into a lost city. Now finally realizing how good those lost cities are. But yeah, I thought I was out of estates, and you really want to have 1 estate because 1 estate is actually a duchy. So I bought that again, but it definitely wasn't right. I just didn't have the right read on it. So here I gear into Grave Robber, so I think I set aside the Grave Robber and probably like a curse or something, so that I can potentially try to trash that next turn with some different types of actions. And we're really not that far behind. It looks like we're far behind, but this game's definitely doable. And I think I gave up at some point. You can't tell, obviously, right now because I'm not doing like live commentary, but I'm pretty sure my commentary in the moment was not super optimistic. And we've seen me win some absolutely crazy games before, so it's definitely possible. Now I finally have more lost cities than my opponent, but it might be too little too late here. They're currently up by 12, so they're up by 2 provinces. Again, sorry that I had that on the screen there for a second. That's sweet. Vault is, I don't think, a good card at this point in the game. But this hand's good. Here I can treasury, I can grave robber my treasury into a province, which I don't love, but I need to find a way to catch up somehow. And then I can buy a duchy, which is worth 5. So now I'm only down by 7. So now if I could find a way to get some duchies and stall out the game potentially, we will have some ways into this, but ghost ship turns wind up continually being pretty awkward. I do grab a silver because I wasn't sure if I had a silver in my deck. I believe that is why I grabbed the silver at that point. Because I just wasn't sure. And we're going to have a big Lost City turn here with Groundskeeper. So honestly, don't count us out just yet. We're down by 15, but this is doable. We can Young Witch my opponent. Like, we got some moves here. So we're going to Young Witch, and then we can buy a duchy. We can actually buy multiple things here because we have Herbalist. So we might buy like Duchy Estate or something silly like that. How much does this give us? That's 6. So yeah, we could buy Duchy Estate. My opponent was remarking that he had Duplicate out, and the game asked if he wanted to duplicate a curse, which of course he declined. So I don't think I go for Vault here, do I? Yeah, I think I just go for Duchy Estate, and then I top deck my gold. So honestly, like, this is looking okay. if I can Young Witch my opponent and then Groundskeeper get a province, and my opponent just totally busts on their turn, we can actually win this game. They do grab an estate. So that's like really not an exciting turn. We can't necessarily win this turn, but now I'm thinking, okay, well, what about duplicate into double duchy? That's looking like a pretty good turn here. I also could salvage a curse. That's kind of respectable, but I only have one action left here. I think I do go for duplicate duchy. I think that that has to be the best play at this point in the game. It's basically like buying a province without buying a province. If my opponent then misses on a turn, then I think I have a shot. So this was a pretty complicated board. There were definitely different plays that I could have made. I think I kept the game pretty close, but I do believe they are able to buy the last province here. But if they just bought like duchy on this turn, I would have been able to win. Because I would have been able to... Right? Yeah, they are able to... Oh, no, that's 7. That's 7. So they duchy, but this is like a 4-point turn. Oh, and now I'm down by 8. Yeah, so now I can't quite win. I can grave robber the lost city to get a province, but I need to also grab a duchy. So if I was able to grab a duchy this turn, I could have won. I needed to lost city into an action and then buy the duchy. So this game was actually really close. I forgot how close it got at the end here. Maybe I didn't give up as much as I thought I did because I really had a shot. So I just grabbed the treasury from the trash and buy the duchy. But yeah, if I was able to buy the duchy and then also grab that province, then that puts me at 74, and then that would have been a win. So a really close game there. My opponent grabs the province. I possibly could have grabbed the province on my last turn. Hard to tell exactly what would have happened on that last turn there. But yeah, that was really close for... a game that I really had no clue what I was doing. I think that's really the takeaway there. I did not really have a coherent strategy going into that game. I kind of did. I was like, okay, grave robber, and there's all these 5s. You can like float the treasuries, get the grave robbers, and then turn the treasuries into provinces. But my opponent just had a lot of victory points and was just able to run away with it. We kept it really close. And we've been alternating games with my opponent. Really, whoever's been on the play, whoever has had more turns has won every single game so far. And we'll see if that holds true as I am on the play this game. And this is quite the kingdom. There's a lot going on here. I'll look at the project first, as I like to do. I like to look at the projects, events, landmarks, and ways. Cathedral's really cool. Trash a card every turn. At the beginning of your turn, you trash a card from your hand. That's really cool. There's also a ton of attacks on this board. There's Urchin, which brings Mercenary. There's Oracle. There's Catapult, which is one of my favorite cards. There's the Knights, which are also some of my favorite cards. So a lot of really cool attacks. There's also Governor, which isn't really an attack, but is certainly cool. And then there's King's Court. And we also have Mine, and we've got Herbalist, some other cards that we've seen this video. King's Court is one of my favorite cards, though, and I think I'm undefeated in King's Court games. I haven't really played around with. You'll see my opponent has like some mixed percentages here to not really include these cards in the game, which is certainly interesting, and everybody, I guess, is within their rights to do that. And you know, the games are going to be fair regardless, as long as you don't use different percentages while you're on the play than while you're on going second. I think that it's important to, like, as long as you keep the kingdoms the same so that everybody has the same chance, it's fair to do whatever you want with that. And I don't believe that the Dominion Online League has any rules against favoriting cards or banning cards or different things like that. But I might think about putting King's Court in my list of preferred cards because I really, really like King's Court games. And I noticed something really cool here on this opening. I also want to say there's a lot of ways to trash in this kingdom. But I still think Cathedral is really good. So I'm going to buy Cathedral on the first turn, and this is where things get pretty cool here. My opponent with a 4 is going to buy a mission, which is really, really interesting. And then they buy the Cathedral. I'm not sure what exactly they were thinking with that one, but it winds up being fine. They just cycle through their early deck and get their Cathedral. But that play was insane. So my second turn, I drew 4 coppers and my Overgrown Estate. I was able to trash my Overgrown Estate and get a 5 on my second turn. So this worked out really, really well for me. I am going to go ahead and grab an early Governor. There are some other options here, like mine would be really cool. It would be a little too soon for Sir Bailey, though, but Governor seems great. And I learned my lesson from the previous video that I played with Governor, where I was just doing the trashing ability. I think you just want to go for golds on the Governor with every opportunity that you get. Here I'm going to trash my Hovel. That's totally fine. But yeah, we're going to go for golds on the Governor, and I am just going to try to buy a King's Court as soon as I can. There's some really cool stuff going on this board that we'll get into here. But I do know I am going to want a Herbalist to do some of this cool stuff because I'm going to be able to have some really huge turns, and I'm going to appreciate having multiple buys. At some point in the game, I think it is right here that I realized, I was like, oh, I'll be able to grab a Governor this turn. And then one of my coppers disappears. And then I reread Cathedral and realize that you have to trash a card with Cathedral. So it can be a little bit of a drawback, but I got a plan here. Diplomat, I think, is really, really good on this board. There are a lot of attacks, and Diplomat is a reaction, so it allows you to react to some attacks. But even more importantly, I'm figuring out what to do with my hand before realizing that I have to trash a card here, I think. So I'm just going to wind up trashing a copper. Though there's like potential for trashing a Herbalist here. I think I'm definitely going to wind up trashing a copper on this hand because I'll want the Herbalists later down the line. But Cathedral Diplomat is actually a combo, and that's why I was willing to pick up Diplomat so early. Diplomat King's Court is really the combo that I'm looking for here, but Diplomat is draw 2 cards, and then if you have 5 or less cards, you gain 2 actions. Well, Cathedral brings you down to 4 cards, and then Diplomat brings you back up to 5, so with Diplomat, Cathedral will actually, or with Cathedral rather, Diplomat will actually net you those actions. So that winds up being pretty good. On this turn, I have 6, and I think I'm just going to wind up trashing one of my coppers here and grabbing another Governor. Yeah, that is what I wind up doing. Sir Bailey and mine are also cool, but we're going to keep making our deck smaller and smaller, and I realized, wait a minute, we could actually do a golden deck here. And I think it was about right now that I realized that I'm going to keep on trashing these coppers every turn. If I get to a point where I just have a few provinces in my deck, I might not even need the King's Court. I might just be able to draw the same 5 cards every turn and run through all of the provinces and end this game super quickly here. So yeah, that's going to be pretty good for us. We are gaining cards to our deck faster than we're trashing them, so we're not really going to get like a pure golden deck, but we basically are, because I think we'll be able to do some kind of a hybrid where we get a golden deck that's also sort of an engine. So we'll draw through our entire deck every turn, but we'll do that with King's Court and Diplomat. We won't do that necessarily just by having the tiniest deck possible. We are going to be able to grab our first King's Court this turn, and I'm going to grab a King's Court whenever possible. My opponent also grabs their first King's Court with Diplomat. So we're going to go ahead and trash our Necropolis here. We don't need it. We're actually doing pretty fine on actions, and we're not buying that many actions. Herbalist is the only thing that we have that loses us actions, but everything else gains us actions. So we're going to have plenty of actions to go around here with the King's Court. And I do decide to Diplomat here. It's really interesting. You can draw 2, then discard 3. And that's really particular, but with a King's Court in your deck, you want to draw to that as soon as possible. Oh, I continue? No way. I hit that Diplomat. I know I do. Okay. Yeah, I hit the Diplomat, and then I get to discard 3 cards, and this actually puts me in a little bit of an awkward position because I didn't leave myself a card to trash. So I kind of messed up here a little bit, but I don't bother going back here. Yeah, I click the Governor, and then I realize, oh shoot, I have to trash one of these cards. So yeah, kind of a mistake, but should be fine. So I'm going to gain a gold here with the Governor, and now I can King's Court Diplomat, and we're going to have 4 actions left over. We won't get any actions from this Diplomat, but we just have a ton of actions here. And I get up to 16, which sounds like 2 provinces, but it also sounds like 2 King's Court. So I almost go for the 2 provinces here, and then instead just go for the King's Court, put a gold on top of my deck, and now we're looking pretty well set up for this turn as well. So not going for any provinces yet. This game, I can see the writing in the stars here, where we're going to have a turn in the future where we just had a turn where we could have gotten 2 provinces. So I know that we can do better than that. This turn I just go for 2 diplomats because I want to get some of those in my deck here. And this turn we are going to have to trash something good, but I'm just going to go ahead and trash Diplomat because that is the cheaper card, and I did just pick up 2 of them, so I'm not super worried if I have to trash one. But King's Court Diplomat, we get to draw a whole bunch of cards, we get a whole bunch of actions, and now I can King's Court a Governor, which, well, the possibilities are kind of endless when you King's Court a Governor. And King's Court Governor is just like its own combo for a whole bunch of different reasons too. I actually wind up just going for the Governor. Oh, no. Okay, I do go for an undo here. Okay. Yeah, because King's Court Governor just seems so good. At some point, giving your opponent a silver in a kingdom that is this insane, giving your opponent a silver is almost like hindering them. So that's kind of funny too. I do think I actually wind up going for the Governor just because I want the additional gold from the Herbalist at this point. But there's like a lot of math to be done here. I'm not doing this math live in the commentary, but let's think about it. So I've got 12 gold. So if I King's Court the Herbalist, that's 15, and that's enough for 2 King's Court. So that's why I do decide to go for the Herbalist. Obviously, I could have mixed up the Governor and done like a draw or something like that, but I'm just going to gain a gold and then King's Court Herbalist and then buy 2 more King's Court. I think that's a pretty straightforward turn. It's not going to matter then if some of these King's Courts get trashed. Do I mix this up at all? I might go King's Court double Diplomat because I did just trash a Diplomat, and Diplomat's much better in the opening hand. It allows you to start things off. And then top decking a gold. So here we have a pretty interesting turn here, and if I remember this turn correctly, we start to end the game right about now. So my opponent trashes a silver of mine, and then they trash a gold of mine. You know what? That is perfectly fine. Then they play a Governor, and they go for the upgrade ability. So I take a look at this hand, and well, it's a little awkward because I am going to have to trash something to Cathedral. But you can just trash a King's Court and get a province. And that starts looking good to me because now I'm remembering Governor's other ability is he can turn your golds into provinces as well. So My opponent gets a big turn here, but they're only able to grab a King's Court. They don't have enough for a province. And I'm thinking, okay, let's trash this gold. Then let's King's Court Governor. And we might be able to just have a totally nutty turn here. So first I'm going to draw 3 cards. Then I think I'm going to do a double trash and gain and make use of the Diplomat because I want to get rid of some cards from my hand again. So I'm going to trash and gain on this gold, grabbing a province, and then my opponent gets to do that as well. So we'll see if they do anything, and I believe they actually ask for a take backseat at some point, but they trash their Necropolis and get a Herbalist. Then I go for a gold, and I believe they do ask for, yeah, they ask for takebacks there. So that's fine. They trash a silver and grab a Diplomat. Okay, fair enough. Now we play a Diplomat, and then we can play another Diplomat, and we just have all the actions to spare here. And we're going to fall off a little bit, but you know what? This winds up being totally fine here too. I consider the mission. Mission is really interesting. You take another turn, but you cannot buy cards in that turn. But you can governor your golds into provinces in that extra turn. So mission could certainly be good in the late game. I'm just going to... Do I just grab a gold here because I want to governor some more gold? I think I grab another governor. I must grab another governor. Yeah, because I trashed one of my governors earlier in the game, and now I'm just seeing how good the governor is as a way to end the game. Governor is kind of a one-card combo just by itself. It's like good in the early game, you grab some golds. It's good in the mid-game, you draw some cards, and then it's insane in the late game. You turn those golds into provinces when you're ready to pack up shop here. So this hand is obviously going to be pretty good. I wasn't sure what to do with all these diplomats and things. So I do wind up using the Diplomat because Diplomat's a little bit awkward when you have drawn an extra card from your opponent's governor. So I do want to use one Diplomat as a reaction here and just get down to a lower amount of cards in hand, I think. But I'm not sure at all what I want to do with this hand. I really have no clue. Like, do I need all these King's Courts? I probably should have just held on to the King's Courts, and I could have King's Courted a King's Court. I think that is what I wind up doing. I think I discard Diplomat and 2 coppers here, and I just lost my camera, which is annoying. Let's see if I can get that back. Yeah, so I discard... Oh, I do discard the King's Court, and I hold on to the copper because I want to trash the copper. So I'm not making that mistake again. This Diplomat I am not going to act on, though. Yeah, annoyingly, I just lost my camera here in the middle of the recording. Let's see, can we get her back? Oh, that's so lame. Well, I don't really want to stop doing this coverage. So you guys can watch the game while I kind of figure out my camera issue here. I just never have luck with this camera stuff. It's so crazy. Let's try unplugging it as I do some crazy turn. I'm yada-yadaing like this absolutely huge turn here. Okay, there we go. There we go. I'm back, baby. Okay, so as we rejoin our hero, looks like I governored, and did I get a province? What did I do with the governor? I governored for a gold, and then I King's Court Diplomat for a whole bunch of cards, and now I'm going for some trash and gain because I'm realizing how close we are to the end of the game, and I can basically just do a run on the provinces here and just grab almost all of them. I also want to get these cards out of my hand so that I can, well, because that doesn't really even matter if I Diplomat first or not, because I'm not really going to be able to make use of these extra actions here. And I'll draw the last 2 cards in my deck And this will allow me to buy yet another province. So yeah, there we go. Basically running through the entire deck in one turn. I think I only got 3 provinces in that turn. But yeah, and then I get to top deck the gold again. So that is absolutely fantastic. I do have a bunch of provinces in my deck, but I also have a bunch of really good cards in my deck, and I'm beating my opponent by 30. So I think at this point, even if they got every last victory point, what is that, 15 plus 14? Yeah, even if they got every last victory point, we win the game. So the only way that we lose is if we had to start trashing our provinces and stuff, like if we never make a play again and trash a province. But as long as they don't trash any provinces or estates, we win. So, and there are no estates. But yeah, this game's definitely locked up here. King's Court Herbalist plus 4 coin in my hand is not quite enough. I'll also have to trash the copper. So, oh, that's right. That's right. This is how this ends. My opponent plays a governor, and I have a King's Court in my hand. So I actually grab the last province from my opponent this way. I was just double checking it here, I think. Yeah. And yeah, just trash that King's Court and grab the last province. So we grabbed all 8 provinces this game. And yeah, I don't even know how my opponent had as many victory points as they did. But that game was not particularly close. That was a pretty epic King's Court game. There might have been some small optimizations somewhere along the lines. But I think for the most part, I played that pretty well. Got a little bit lucky with the opening hand. Maybe there was also an opportunity to use mission on the last turn or something and deny my opponent any opportunity to win. But hey, I won. And I think I did so pretty convincingly. So here we are, the last game. So far, whoever has been first has won the game. So we shall see what that means for this game here. We've got a lot of actions. I guess let's take a look at the landmarks here first. So when scoring, if you have 10 coppers, which means if you've acquired 3 additional coppers over the course of the game, you get 15 victory points. Fountain is super good. But Candlestick Maker, the free buys off Candlestick Maker, means that picking up those extra coppers are going to be super easy. We also have Orchard, which now I totally forget what that does. Oh yeah, Orchard's a weird one. Orchard is if you have 3 copies of an action, you get 3 victory points. So having 2 of something isn't really that great. Having 3 of something is perfect. So I'm going to want to grab 3 of as many things as I possibly can, potentially rounding out the game. And I think you actually get 4 victory points for every triple that you have. We're also starting this game with a magic lamp via the Secret Cave. So Secret Cave is just an interesting duration action there. It's a pretty good card. But Magic Lamp is an awkward one. I must mouse over the wishes at some point. But when you play Magic Lamp, if you have exactly 1 copy of 6 cards, then you get 3 wishes. And wishes is just a free action that lets you grab an action from the supply. So basically, if you cash in your Magic Lamp, you can get 3 laboratories or something, which also goes for your orchard. You grab 3 treasuries, 3 hunting parties, really anything. 3 golems even. So Magic Lamp is going to be super powerful, and we will see how that breaks out. My opponent going for Candlestick Maker on the first turn, but I know what I like on this board, and I like Golem, so I'm going straight for Golem, and then I believe I am going to grab that Secret Cave that I am mousing over here as well, because Secret Cave is going to have a really interesting interaction with Potion. Basically, it's going to allow us to get rid of Potion if we don't want it. Because one of the biggest things with Potion, as you see with this hand, you get a lot of hands where you have Potion, but you don't have enough to buy what the potion is really in your deck for. So this hand, I'm just going to get a Candlestick Maker, and one of the other things that I think is cool about this kingdom is Candlestick Maker with the coffers will allow me, it'll put me in a place where when I draw these potions, I'll be able to buy a Golem. But here you see this turn, I've got the 4 copper, but I don't have the potion with which to purchase the Golem. So this turn's a little bit awkward. I'm actually going to go ahead and grab another potion. And as long as this secret cave hits a copper, we've purchased our first Golem. If it doesn't, then we discard the potion, which is exactly what I was talking about earlier, but we do find it, and we are able to buy our first Golem. So things are looking pretty good. I like how this is shaken out, to be honest. Our opponent, you'll have to excuse me, just I've been recording for a little bit here now. My opponent is really enjoying these Candlestick Makers, and they've actually made their first triplet off of Candlestick Makers. I am going to want to triple my Candlestick Makers at some point, and I think now is a fine time to pick up a second one, and I decided not to pick up a copper, but the Candlestick Makers, having 3 of those is just going to make it so that you can easily complete the fountain win condition, which is going to be super important in the late game. The fact that you can basically ignore the fountain the entire time and then just jump on it and complete it in the late game, I think is going to be super useful, because that means you don't clog your deck with all of these coppers in the early game, and you can draw like your Golem as often as possible and then still get those 15 victory points for free, because that's a lot of victory points. So I think I do go for another Candlestick Maker here. It's a little bit of an awkward card, but the coffers, I think, will wind up doing us pretty well in the end game. So I don't mind picking up a few of those early. My opponent's going all in on the Fool's Gold. And while I do think Fool's Gold, I don't know. I don't really love the card. I'm always more interested in some of the actions you can do, and especially in a Golem board. I'm just looking at the actions here. So I'm going all in on the actions, and this turn I do believe I'm going to cash in some of my coffers and get my 3rd Golem, completing that triplet of Golems. Yeah, just with so many more potions than my opponent, I feel like these Golems, this early Golem strat is going to be good. My Golems aren't like super impressive, but eventually now I'm going to start trying to get a treasury. Though I do think I go for another Golem here, just because, hey, if you got the potion, get the Golem. So I do believe I go for... Oh no, I go for a treasury. Is that right? No, I must undo this, yeah. It's funny. It's funny to have like the same kind of thoughts when you're recording this. Like, oh, now I want a treasury, but I could get a Golem. But Golem is good into treasury, because if you hit the treasury off the Golem, then you'll be able to keep that treasury. So Golem is kind of like a way to find your treasuries more easily after you cash them in. But I am going to go ahead and undo this here. Yeah. And that's just to undo my coffers. And then I'm going to play this potion, use 1 coffer, and grab my 4th Golem. My opponent has 1 Golem to my 4. But Golem just seems really, really good. And I do think I want to be obtaining those whenever I can. And I start to kind of get this idea, you know, I have 2 potions. My opponent only has 1. If I can make it so that my opponent can't get their 3rd Golem, firstly, that means I have 8 Golems. But that also means they can't complete it via the orchard. So once I kind of realize that, actually here I do make use of... No, do I make use of the secret cave? I'm not sure that I do. Yeah, I don't think I make use of the secret cave. I think I grab a Golem here. Because I really want to start getting rid of all of these Golems. And I think that that is what is on my mind here first and foremost. So Yeah, we're going to see an undo. And we're going to see a don't discard. Oh, never mind. I go for it. Wow, that was a lot of back and forth there. So I'm actually just setting up for a big turn next turn. Do I buy a copper here? Nah, I don't buy a copper. There's no real need. When you see that turn, I had 4 buys. At the end of the game, there's going to be a turn where you just like have 4 buys. You get your 3 copper as just a bonus throw in, and you're totally fine with that. And this turn winds up being pretty interesting. So my opponent goes for a golem and a hunting party. They are going to try to get an orchard off the hunting party, and I go for a golem before realizing... Wait, do I undo this? Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, I don't have it yet. See, Magic Lamp is such a like silly card, and it's so specific that you almost just ignore it. Because even though I have all of these cards there, I had 2 candlestick makers, and you need to have exactly 1 of everything. So unfortunately, that actually didn't work with the Magic Lamp on that turn. But this is the turn where I do luck out and get my Magic Lamp online. So my opponent's doing a bunch of stuff here with the Fool's Golds, and those seem cool and all, but we're just buying up all the golems. So my opponent buys a gold and a copper on that turn. They do go for the copper. We golem into 2 cards, one of which we already have, the other one that we don't. But then we... Oh, I think about discarding, and then I say, wait a minute. If I can draw a copper off this treasury, I'll be able to activate my Magic Lamp. So luckily, I was just paying just enough attention to be able to see that. So the Candlestick Maker doesn't work, but I draw a copper off the treasury, which is pretty lucky, and then I'm able to cash in my wish or Magic Lantern and grab 3 wishes. So each of those wishes are +1 action, and then grab an action that costs 6 or less from the kingdom. I do think I go ahead and grab another golem here because I drew my potion. Now I just want to draw into these wishes as soon as I can, and I'm going to start replacing these wishes with laboratories. Oh, I actually go for a treasury there. Okay, that is fair enough too. And this turn's looking like a pretty big turn as well. All my turns are going to be pretty big from here on out. I have so many golems in my deck. My opponent grabbing their first treasury. So we do need 1 more treasury to secure some victory points there. But I think in this game, we're doing great because we're ahead in the deck. We're ahead on victory points. And... we're not ahead on the fountain, but that should be really easy to complete, and I am really not worried about that. So, yeah, this is looking pretty good. We're going to go ahead and grab our last treasury or first laboratory. I think we grab a laboratory here, but we want one of each. I do also consider gold, and I think one of these wishes I actually make a mistake. I should have grabbed a gold, but I didn't. We're going to just treasury here and then play another golem. We grab the wishes, and you wish these cards right into your hand. So they're just like absolutely fantastic here. Now I just start going for the laboratories because we already have so much otherwise going on. So that all winds up being great. And this was the turn. I think I wind up buying a gold and using a coffers to do so, or that's what happens. But I do have so many buys here as well. I think I cash in, and at this point I'm like, okay, I want all the golems. I want my opponent to not be able to get any golems. And then looks like if I'm going to go for 4 coffers, maybe I do tick it down and just go laboratory golem. But the problem is now I have all this card draw in my deck, and I need something to actually draw into. So this deck actually does need a gold in it, so that way I can hit something good. And once I have the gold, now I'm pretty confident I'll be able to draw this gold more or less every turn, and I am feeling pretty good. Opponent with a pretty good golem there with golem into treasury, secret cave, hunting party. Yeah, pretty good stuff going on there. And then their second golem. But they are not going to be able to grab their third golem, as I think I am going to try to grab both of the last two golems here. And they're just going for fool's golds, which I think is definitely a fool's errand at this point in the game. I just have no interest in doing that with them. I did have secret cave money this turn, so I will definitely be able to buy a golem and a laboratory, and I think that is a pretty good buy right here. Oh, do I go for a gold here? Oh, interesting. I think it's time. I think it's time. I don't want to fall too far behind, and I grab a province. That's interesting. I'm not sure I needed to yet, though. I'm not sure I needed to be the first person to buy a province, but my opponent sees me buy a province and they say, okay, I get the hint. I'm not going to fall behind. You know what? I must have done it because of where I was at in the deck that I was about to shuffle. I wasn't really paying enough attention to that, but that is always something I consider as I brought up. I believe in a previous game that, yeah, when we are close to reshuffling the deck, I will consider playing my treasuries then, because we've got a decent chance to draw them as we reshuffle everything. So that was the consideration. I felt like I got enough value out of those treasuries maybe. Here we're going to send some stuff into the next turn, and this turn I must full send on the coffers here and buy a laboratory and a golem. So not exactly sure why that was the turn order one way or the other, but it must have been because of where I was at in the deck, and looks like it worked out well for me because now I have these treasuries already, and we are about to shuffle in the deck again. We actually did just shuffle in the deck. Golem's pretty interesting. It turns through the deck pretty quickly here. Yeah, we're just going to turn through the deck multiple times in the same turn. We are now out of actions. So let's go ahead and play everything out. I think I will go ahead and grab a golem plus a province here. That seems pretty good. I don't really care about any of these other actions. Yeah, we just need one coffers to do that. So one coffers is 12. That lets me buy province plus golem, which denies my opponent golem orchard. And I already have golem orchard on basically everything that I want, except I do want one more secret cave. And that secret cave is going to get better in the late game, as I will have additional victory points that I want to loot through here. My opponent is trashing a fool's gold to grab some real gold, and now that I see that this game is almost over, I'm going to go ahead and pick up 2 coppers, which means I now only need to pick up 1 more to secure the orchard for myself. So this game is definitely nearing its end here. My opponent with 2 buys and 7 coffers is possibly going to go province plus copper. I'm not sure what they do at this point, but I believe that's what they do. Okay, they grab a treasury and a province, and it starts to look a little bit scary to me. They are beating me now by 13, so I do believe I make it a priority this turn to just grab the fountain. If not this turn, then definitely next turn I do it. What else would I want here? I guess I could grab... Oh, you know what? I need 2 secret caves still. So that's what I do. Yeah, I only currently have 1 secret cave. So I go ahead and grab 2 secret caves, which is going to give me 4 victory points. And I don't think my opponent can end it on 1 turn. We are getting close because there's only 1 fool's gold left. But my opponent buys a province, and now I'm looking a little bit scared because my opponent is beating me by 15. But you know what? 15 is really only an orchard away. So while it seems like my opponent is absolutely killing it here, I can discard potions freely. We don't need those. But yeah, while it seems like my opponent is killing it, we are actually doing totally fine here. So now we grab a secret cave, and at this point I think I start discarding golems because we are out of other actions in my deck to play. This is a turn that I think I wind up having to undo. Yeah, because I mess it up here a little bit. There were no actions left and I didn't realize, so I go for an undo here. Yeah, just because we were out of action. So I want to actually discard these golems. Oh, that's right. I can also discard the secret cave. I contemplated it for a second, but I could have discarded the secret cave and then golemed and found it again. But I think this was a better play here to just secret cave, do this. I'm going to buy at least 1 copper here, and then, I don't know, what do I buy? A province? That gets a little bit scary because then my opponent can just buy province estate and they win. So this game's super close, and it can really go either way. We could also consider buying like 3 lighthouses, and then we get 4 victory points, and it's basically like a better duchy or you're paying 6 and you're getting 4 victory points. But I'm afraid that those will impact my golems, so I really don't want to do it. So instead, I do think I buy a copper here just to stay on the safe side of things, and then I just buy a duchy. I have all these secret caves, so I'm doing well, and I think that next turn, yeah, there we go. Now I'm beating my opponent by 3. I think that next turn, with double secret cave, I believe I have double secret cave, I'm feeling pretty good about my chances of potentially just buying 2 provinces out from under my opponent's nose. My opponent now at a position where they can't buy a province, because if they buy a province and nothing else, I can win the game just by buying a province. So my opponent gets up to a pretty big total there. Looks like they actually had 7, and they buy a treasury and an estate. So that is going to be their 3rd treasury, so it was a pretty good pickup for them for sure. But we already have 6 gold going into this turn, so all we needed was a little bit more, and we actually don't get there. But it's so close. So I think this turn I cash in all of my coffers and buy a duchy and a province. Because I only have 3 buys, so I can't buy like triple lighthouse plus province. And I'm also not even sure that that would even be better. I think that just buying the duchy is just better. We save a coffers for the next turn, and we put my opponent in a place, plus 9. We would then be plus 7 on them. So it would be really tough for them to get 7 in a turn, because our deck is also just so much better than theirs. And I think we've got a win here. My opponent's easiest victory points are probably otherwise from Secret Cave. They could buy 2 Secret Caves, and that would give them 4 victory points. So that might be something that they consider as well. They have a Fool's Gold that they can act on here, and I think they do wind up... No, they don't. They don't act on the Fool's Gold. They can't, because the game is almost over at this point. So they're going to go for Secret Cave, and they actually discard cards, and then they go double Fool's Gold and grab a duchy just to keep the game somewhat close. But the game is not going to wind up being close here, as we play through all of our actions first. Then we eventually play through our golems here, and we find some secret caves and some treasuries. That's fine. We can discard Duchy, Potion, Copper, but I can also just win the game potentially this turn. So I don't want to go for that. I am just going to draw the cards off Secret Cave and not discard. I would be discarding if I had like Province, Potion, Duchy, but I don't want to discard even a single copper, because all we have to do is buy this last province and we win. And at some point I realize that we already have 7 and we have 2 coppers, and I can just end the game right now by sending all of my coffers. All I actually needed was 1 copper there. So once I realize that, we are able to end the game and defeat my opponent by 10. We defeat the Mao Master, and he laments that it was the magic lamp, and I certainly got lucky there. The magic lamp just allowed me to get all of those free laboratories, and that was obviously super clutch. But there was a lot of really interesting stuff going on in this game. It was a really cool kingdom with the orchard working out pretty well, because there were a lot of good actions in that kingdom. So here is the breakdown. We both had 4 provinces. we both had 15 from the fountain, and then I had just a little bit more from the orchard and some duchies as well. So it was a really, really close game. I had 8 extra points from the orchard and 6 extra points from the duchies. Or I'm sorry, 8 from the orchard, 6 from the duchies. Where else did we get it? I'm not sure, but that was pretty much it, and we were able to end the game there, and that worked out pretty well. That was one thing I wanted to do there was deny my opponent the ability to hit the third golem, which would have been worth 4 victory points, and also golem is just super powerful. But I'm happy how all of those games wound up. Maybe I will throw the current standings on the board here. I still have 2 more opponents left to play, and Master still has 1 more opponent left to play. He's currently at a much higher win percentage than I am, but the fact that I just beat him, I think, proves pretty well for me. So hopefully we are going to be able to advance in the Dominion League, and we'll see how it goes. So that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.